From Informa Tech Target, I'm Beth Pariseau, and this is IT Ops Query. This podcast distills the signal from the noise about enterprise software development and platform engineering. Each week, we'll talk to expert guests about the latest tech industry news and trends that engineering and IT leaders need to know. Don't forget to subscribe to IT Ops Query for more conversations on AI and the future of the enterprise digital workspace. Clint Sharp is co-founder and CEO of Cribl, which first emerged in 2018 with a tool to streamline the data sent to log analytics platforms, but has since expanded to offer its own observability and security platform. Cribl products that now include federated search, a data pipeline, a data lake, and a cloud-based managed service. Hi, Clint.
Hey, Beth.
Thank you for joining me.
Happy to be here.
So at CriblCon this week, you've been discussing how AI workloads affect data management. So what kinds of changes are customers dealing with?
Yeah, so a lot of what we're talking about is preparing for the agentic era.
Mm-hmm.
And it- so it's clear that like the promise and what we know the future will look like, I think most vendors are here and are proclaiming what the future is going to be. And the future is always unevenly distributed, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be some people at the leading edge of the market who are all in on agentic. And then I think, as a good example, like we're 7 years into this journey and there's still lots of people who do not have our pipelining product yet. And so there are people who bought it 7 years ago and they were at the leading edge of the market and they were like, I need a telemetry pipeline. I need the choice control, the flexibility that gives me. And then there's still people who are not yet there. And we're going to see the same journey with AI and agentic, et cetera. But there's a lot of things that we can be doing to get ready for that future. And what is happening already for the people who are at the leading edge of the market is they're either building their own agents or they're working with several of these AI SOC or AI SRE startups and saying, hey, I see the potential to offload a lot of toil from my SRE teams, from my SOC analysts, because what happens when anything goes wrong, the first thing that happens is, okay, there's a ticket that's created and some human then goes and looks at that ticket. Maybe they create an incident channel in Slack. They bring their colleagues in. They start asking, does anybody know how to work with this problem? Has anybody seen this before? They go to the wiki. They go start gathering a bunch of context and run books and saying, okay, well, if this happens, then I do these things. And then they swivel their chair over to their telemetry solution and they start typing in things or looking at dashboards and trying to understand like how to go resolving all that. In the future, a good portion of that work is going to be done by agents. And actually in the very near future, there are working use cases of, okay, I get the ticket, the agent reads the ticket, the agent reads the wiki, the agent looks at all of the human generated data and then pivots over to the telemetry tool and starts running a bunch of queries and hands back an analysis of like, hey, this is something that might be wrong. And in today's world, maybe 30 to 50% of the time they get that right. That's still a win, right? Like if 50% of the time the tool saves me the 30 minutes to an hour of kind of combing through all this stuff, then that's a big win. But the problem that people who are at the leading edge of the market are seeing is, okay, these agents run at many multiples of the speed of humans. And so the amount of queries that they're generating to my telemetry systems are an order of magnitude greater than what humans do. And I was already running those tools at the red line. So like I'm spending tens of millions of dollars to ingest all of this log data, metric data, trace data. And I scaled the system to accommodate the workload of today, not accounting for the agentic workload that's going to come along and then generate way, way more query volume to these backends. And so what's clear is like, hey, what got you to 2025 is not going to get you to 2035. And if the ROI in order to enable agents is, okay, this tool that I'm spending $10, $20 million a year on, I now need to spend 50 or 75 million because I need to triple the amount of infrastructure and volume of data, et cetera. That's untenable. The ROI is not there. But we don't actually have to triple the cost because if we start to treat the data differently, instead of just throwing unprocessed data into an index so that I can treat it like Google and go search for it and a human can go read these log data. So if instead we are parsing the data, normalizing the data, getting it into a shape that the agents can truly understand, then we can process the data a lot faster and we can actually accommodate the order of magnitude more queries that are going to be generated by the agents. And so we're telling our customers, like, this is the future. Start getting ready now.
Yeah.
Let's start building the infrastructure that's going to be ready for the agentic era.
Right. And in the meantime, AI is also becoming a part of Cribl's tool set. So what does that allow users to do that they couldn't do before?
Yeah, so there's several things. There's some things that are shipping today. So our Copilot editor that we released earlier this year is the foundation, and you can see where that's going to go. You can go into Copilot editor today and you can say, I have this example set of log data. Build me a parser and map that to Open Cybersecurity Framework, which is OCSF. It's a common schema and kind of security. And it'll do that. It'll build you a whole pipeline, like what used to take a human a day's worth of work, it will do in literally minutes.
Mhm.
And we're going to take that same kind of AI framework, and instead of waiting for a human to say, here's my example, build that parser, we're building a factory of parser builders that basically looks at all of the known industry standards and says, I'm going to build you 300, 500 parsers for known data so that if we know what that data looks like we already have all of those parsers available for you and we can map that into whatever schema you want. And then we're building agentic experiences that will ship within probably the next quarter to 2 quarters that if I don't know, so in with security, this works really well because for the most part, we're all looking at the same log data in security. We all have the same vendors, we all have the same clouds, we all have the same firewalls. So all of that is pretty much in common. In the observability world, like a lot of those logs are completely custom because the logs were written by developers who work at that company. And so nobody has ever seen that data before.
Mhm.
And so for that type of workload, we are going to have to build an agentic workflow similar to Copilot Editor. Basically says, here's all the data that I don't know what to do with.
Mm.
And here I'm going to help you build those pipelines and help you get that data normalized. And then the other agentic portion that we're building is the AI that sits on top, which is that the workflow I was talking about before, reading the wiki, reading the Slack, running all the queries, running hypotheses, and coming back with a notebook full of analysis that the agent has done for you,
Mm.
building that agent as well. And we expect that also to ship in the next couple of quarters.
Yeah, I think there was the announcement of Cribl Notebooks at CribbleCon, right?
Correct. And this is similar to the kind of a Jupyter notebook, if you're familiar with
Yeah.
the general purpose data world. It's a way to tell a story with data that is interactive with our search products. So you can embed searches into the notebook. You can embed Markdown. You can embed images.
Mhm.
Our security people have been using this internally. And so when we have any security incident that we're investigating, our security folks go and do their analysis. And in the old world, it's like, okay, I go into my search tool, I run some searches, I take some screenshots, I put them into a ticket.
Mhm.
And that works fine. But the notebook is way better because now instead of taking screenshots of the output of these searches are actually live. So you can actually see the results of what they are and you can go modify them. You can clone them. You can continue to tell the story of data. And it's a very rich interactive experience.
Right. From an IT manager's point of view, somebody overseeing the entire IT estate, every vendor that they're working with is offering them AI-driven tools right now and increasingly agent-driven tools. So why would a company use something like Cribl Notebooks versus Jupyter Notebooks or Google Notebook LM? There's notebooks all over the place now. Observability tools have notebooks. What who within an organization would use it, and how do IT managers make decisions about which of these products to use?
There's a general purpose data market. So Databricks, Snowflake, all the cloud providers, that the Venn diagram of that market and then a SecOps engineer or an SRE, there's
Hmm.
almost no overlap. So like when you get into SRE and SecOps, these are not people who speak SQL to
Mm.
start with,
Right.
right? Like they need data to do their jobs, but they are not data people.
Mhm.
And, you know, where you're using Cribl search and our notebook feature there, it is because you work with telemetry data all day long. You look at logs to do security investigations, you look at metrics in order to understand the performance of your systems. And so you're speaking a language. We use a derivative of Microsoft's Custo language in our search product is pipe delimited. This is a language that is much better for telemetry data than SQL, right? So like it starts with working with time series data is significantly more what we call ergonomic, which is just easier to do. So to do the same thing in SQL is hard. Like if just seeing how the queries are written are hard. Now AI in theory can make that easier. So maybe in theory SQL gets better for these use cases because we have AI on top of ours as well. So you can go write in natural language and we will generate these Custo queries. But you're picking Cribl search for a couple of reasons. One is if you're used to working in this type of environment, this type of data, it is the type of product that you're going to use versus a Databricks or something else like that. Secondly, our Lakehouse offering offers the best cost performance for this class of data, but you may say, hey, look, I've already got my data in whatever, Elasticsearch or Grafana or whatever else.
Right.
But we support federations. The key for search is like, we have separated the query processing layer from the data storage layer. You can use our data store. We think it's great, but you can choose not to as well. And I think that highlights Cribl's different approach in that we're open at all portions of our product. Our stream product integrates with everything. Our search product integrates with everything. And so we want to provide value no matter what choices you have made. And we will support those choices and continue to work with you to make the things that you already have better. And then we hope to win the right over time that eventually you're like, maybe I don't even need that thing anymore. And so that's how we've entered the market and what makes us very different than our.
Right. And another thing every vendor seems to be talking about is MCP. I know Cribl talked about an MCP server this week, but it seems like in some ways the standard is still pretty new and there are a lot of ways that different companies are shoring it up. But do you think the upstream standard is ready for production prime time, or is there more that needs to mature about that standard?
Most things in AI haven't progressed much beyond demos. I mean, I think that's just a fact
Yeah.
of where. And MCP, I saw this X post the other day that MCP is the only thing that has more builders than users, right? Everybody seems to be building MCP servers. Nobody seems to be using them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we are building it. We're shipping it. It is in a very early market. And I think it's too soon to really know exactly how it's going to be used. When we look at like GPT 3.5 from 4 years ago, the state of the art was like, I trained this base model and the base model has all the knowledge encoded in the model. And then it takes 6 months to train the model and then it's fixed in time. And this is the knowledge that the model has. And now a few years later, models have access to tools. And when I'm using GPT-5, I don't have to, the knowledge is in data because it goes and it searches the web and it gathers all of the context and it brings it to the model and the model distills that information and gives me good sort of summary information. It's clear that the future of AI is, very strong base models that have reasoning capabilities, that have the ability to work with large amount of context and deliver results back to the user. But the majority of the information that they're working with are available in external tools. So I'm going to call out to an MCP to get access to my source code. I'm going to call out to an MCP to get access to my tickets and et cetera. And where Cribl is playing is we are experts at telemetry data. And so our Lake product, our Lakehouse product, our search product give you access to petabytes to exabytes of telemetry data that these awesome models are going to be able to call into and ask questions of and give distillable results. So go look at these terabytes of data and summarize them over time based off of, give me the 95th percentile of the response time of this particular API call. And then those LLMs are going to continue to ask iterative questions. And each one of those questions is going to make a tool call. It's going to go out and it's going to say, okay, give me more information, give me more information. So we are building an agent, but it doesn't necessarily matter whether you use our agent. all the agents are going to need access to this data if you want to provide results to SRE and security. We believe we offer the best cost performance and the best federation layer and et cetera that will make your agents the most intelligent that they possibly can be.
Speaking of more builders than users, Gartner has asserted that there are already more AI agent products out there than there's demand for. So are we in a bubble?
I've read articles that have said essentially if the hyperscalers weren't building data centers for inference compute, that we'd be in a recession, right? Like that literally it's something like 1 to 2% of GDP is being
Yeah.
spent on building data centers. So there's definitely a race to make sure that for these guys who have access to that kind of capital, that they aren't getting left behind.
Hmm.
I am probably not near expert enough to call whether bubbles exist or not.
Hmm.
What I will say is that where we see startup valuations and the amount of capital flooding into the space, it definitely feels like 1999 again. Like it feels like it was in the internet bubble when we were deploying tons of capital into building fiber networks and etc. But like far be it for me to say like it is or when it's going to happen or when it's going to pop. What I know is that we see the promise of this technology. I see this like the internet, like the PC revolution, like the mobile phone. When the mobile phone came out, I think w- er, edge networks were running at 128K, and now I can get 100 megabits plus to my mobile phone. Websites were not designed for the phone. You couldn't order anything from your phone. 15, 20 years later, it's hard to imagine an era where it isn't mobile first. Everything's not mobile first. And I think you could see when multi-touch was released, when the iPhone came out, that like the future was going to look different. And I think we can say the same thing about AI. The future is going to be different. Predicting what that's going to be like, I think is nigh on impossible, but you have to absolutely be there and you have to be investing for the future. And that's exactly what we're doing.
And so far among your customer base, are you seeing people move past that demo stage? And if so, how are they getting there?
Cribl's in 47 of the Fortune 100 and 30% of the Fortune 500. We certainly have customers that are on the leading edge of the market, but the vast majority of our customers, the majority of our customers are still like redlining anything AI related in any sort of legal agreement. And because they're concerned about their data getting commingled with other people's data, we don't do that. All of our stuff is completely separated and no customer's data touches anybody else's data. So yes, we are aware and we have customers who are seeing great productivity gains with the use of AI in a variety of areas and some very specifically in our market. But it's like the upper 1% of our customer base in
Hmm.
terms of how advanced they are. 99% of our customers or 95% of our customers are still in a wait and see.
Yeah.
And I think that it's hard because there is some AI fatigue out there in the market. And I think we've moved more towards being an AI first company, and we are an AI first company. And part of what I said at CribbleCon is there's going to be AI companies and dead companies. Like this is so big. Like it is
Mhm.
obvious that this is different. I remember in 2008 writing a memo about my cloud strategy when I was still on the customer side, but before I became a vendor. That was 17 years ago. And a lot of those same, I used to work in telco. Like a lot of our telco customers are still talking about what their cloud strategy is. So like
Yeah.
the amount of time it takes, you can see the future and the amount of time it takes for the future to arrive. I may retire before the whole world
Yeah.
is all in on AI.
Yeah. In the meantime, I guess maybe I've heard plenty already about data management. I heard about that with the first sort of generation of AI ops tools that were using machine learning and weren't generative AI driven, that it's really garbage in, garbage out. What would be your advice for IT organizations to get ready in terms of the data management? What's something that works or that doesn't work? Trying to get ready for AI.
A lot of this conversation revolves around how we think about data structure and schema.
Mhm.
And so in today's world, for the incumbent tools that were built over the last 10, 15, 20 years, building parsers was really hard. So we built indexing solutions so I can just put all the data in and I can type in search terms and I get the data back and I can figure out how to structure it after I read the data back. That's just simply not going to work in an AI era because the data needs to be well prepared in order for the AI to be able to make sense of it. And the telemetry world is in far worse shape than the general purpose data world. So like in the general purpose data world, one of the key problems, and if you go look at my data warehouse, and my company's only 7 years old, so this has all been built from scratch in the last 7 years. The BI tools that we use struggle because I have 6 different fields in my sales order table called ARR, annual recurring revenue. So which one should I use? Like now me, because I'm a human, I can be like that one. But like,
Yeah.
how does the agent know? So a lot of what's happening in these companies that are building these types of agents is they're having to invest very heavily in forward deployed engineers that come in and add the context and customize the tools in order to make them work for that particular business. And that's fine because I need BI as a business so much, and I spend whatever percent of my revenue on BI. It's strategic. But then you go to like security or operations, they do not have the humans, they do not have the budgets. So we're not going to be able to afford to employ an army of forward deployed engineers to customize telemetry solutions in order to answer security questions or answer operations questions. So we're going to have to get really, really good at understanding the data on the way in so that it lands in a way in which the agent can then understand, which is a stark departure from how we have treated data over the last 10 to 20 years. And so that's exactly what we talked about at CriblCon, which is there is a future and you need to start getting prepared, and you don't have to solve it all right now, but like you have to start thinking differently about how to manage all of this data, or the benefits that AI and agents are going to provide to you will be elusive to you. You will not be able to achieve those gains unless you start to think differently.
And it's a skill set in itself. There's a lot of ways that AI is being pitched as bridging skills gaps that already exist, but it takes different skills in and of itself to use it effectively, right?
Absolutely. Every technology wave, I think everybody worries that this is going to destroy entire classes of jobs. As an example, like there used to be people whose job it was called computer, and their job was like they had before we had spreadsheets, we had pieces of paper that looked like spreadsheets. And then when somebody changed the value of one cell, somebody's job was literally to have an adding machine over there and go and re-add all those columns. And now, like literally, it happens in a millisecond. I change the value in an Excel sheet and everything else. So all those jobs went away. But there are now more accountants and more people in finance than there ever were when we had people whose jobs were computers. So you're going to have to learn how to use the new tools, and the new tools are going to make you better at the job that you do. Everybody's going to have to learn how to use these tools. Everybody is, and it's going to be different, but it isn't. But I don't really think we're going to see, I think it's similar to the PC or the internet revolution, etc. The world will be different, but we're not going to eliminate all knowledge work. We're just going to make knowledge workers significantly more productive.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time out. It's a busy time of year for everybody, so appreciate you chatting with me today.
Really fun conversation. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you for tuning in to IT Ops Query. To learn more about enterprise software development and platform engineering, explore our content on Informa Tech Target sites. Find us on YouTube at our channel, Eye on Tech. Subscribe to our podcast to receive the latest episodes as they drop. And if you liked what you heard today, give us a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Thank you for joining us.